I think we have our order sorted, and we're all present and accounted for. I want to just recognize the people at the high table, take a moment to do that. I think you've already heard some introductions, but some other people have joined us since we arrived. In fact, maybe I'll even ask them to say quick hello.
Hello, good morning everyone. My name is Paella Cheng. I come from Kenya Association of the Intellectually Handicapped. I'm the Self-Advocacy Officer. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is George Bucci. I'm from Kenya Association for the Intellectually Handicapped Communication Service. Thank you.
So in Rwanda, they made it. So we gave you a shout out earlier, but we're happy you're here. When I saw your face, I recognized you from the website.
Morning. I'm Eda Yosiamo from the Ministry of State.
Welcome back. Have I missed anybody else who has just arrived? Yes.
Good morning. My name is Michael Ogilo, General Manager of Marketing, Jomo Kenyatta Foundation. Thank you.
Welcome, JK. Thank you. Okay. Oh, and Sheila. Hey, Sheila.
I'm Sheila Luther from the Ministry of Education, Directorate for Special Needs Education.
Sheila has been enormously helpful to us, and we're very happy to be working with her. And you, ma'am.
Good morning. I'm Sarawatiri Elero TV.
Thank you. Okay, at the high table we have Paris Clara from Digital Advice Data. We have Kennedy Chinganya from MTN. Mr. Temba, Head of ICT for Education at MOE. Mr. Haga, from the Deputy Director of DSNE, the Directorate of Special Needs Education. Mr. Kieti, from Kenya Union of the Blind and ICEDI, and Tim from EDT. The learning you get from it helps you to understand how to deliver inclusive education across the whole spectrum of needs. It's a big idea for me. I think it's a big idea. Why? Because in the past, almost universally, I'm sure there are exceptions that I don't know about. Maybe my colleagues know better than I do. But in the past, people reach the disabled in education systems as an afterthought. You go after disabled priorities, disabled needs, at the end, if you get there at all. In the approach that we're taking, we think you go after those needs first. Why? I ask myself this question sometimes, and I think it's just because we're problem solvers. We think that if you go after the hardest problems first, what you learn from solving those problems makes other problems easier. That's how we approach technology. It's also how we approach education. So, I'm very happy you're with us. I hope, well, let's see. Tim, do you want to say a few words about inclusive education? Or should we just go straight to Mr. Temba? John? Let Mercy introduce Mr. Temba. Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, just be sure. See, the reason I feel compelled, apart from the fact that I always like it when Tim speaks and he always says good things, the reason I feel compelled to have Tim speak is that of our colleagues in this area, Tim has been the most eloquent on the critical importance of cultural change to realize inclusive education. And I always feel like there's so much more that I need to learn in that area, that I'm always happy when Tim is here, because then he can speak to it with a little bit more perspective and experience. Tim Bainbridge, Regional Director for Education Development Trust.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. It gives me great pleasure to be here today. If I don't use the microphone, can you hear me? No. Okay, somebody at the back is shaking their heads today. For those of you who don't know us, Education Development Trust is an education non-profit organisation. All we work on is education, primary and secondary, and nothing else. And we work globally. And we're very pleased to be part of the Digital Literacy Trust, and very pleased to be here with you this morning. One of the things that I observe in most meetings I go to like this is how we continue to retain the behaviours of school children. I look around and everybody's sat at the back of the room. Nobody comes to the front. And I think as adults it's actually quite good for us to remember those kind of things. Children like to sit at the back, one way from the teachers. Yeah? And I see the same behaviour with adults. So I'm going to just briefly talk a little bit about generalities. And one of the reasons that Education Development Trust is very interested and very proud to be part of the Digital Literacy Trust. Africa is the youngest continent on the planet. More than 50% of the population on the continent are under 18. We know that by 2030 there's going to be, well, estimates range between 15 and 20 million teachers short of the requirement to teach all the children and to give them a quality education. That's a huge gap. That's a huge, massive. I cannot describe the number big enough. I cannot explain how many children will not get a quality education because of the shortfall in teachers and infrastructure. And this comes back to the other issue about dropout rates. And yet again relates to this issue of inclusive education. An inclusive education system looks at each child as an individual and tailors the education, whether it is within the classroom or the system, to that child. Now that inclusive education system that is so important for a child who maybe can't see so well or is struggling to hear, these children should be sitting at the front of the classroom, by the way. So those of you with glasses on, you should be sat here, under the eye of the teacher, where you can get more support. But an inclusive education system that identifies those children who are struggling also identifies the children who are doing really well. It takes each child as an individual. It's not just teaching to the mass. And that means that the quality of the education for all children is improved. And so inclusive education is good education. It should not be seen as something totally separate. It is the teacher who is still the focal point. I've been to a number of conferences where people say, oh, well, with our technology, you don't need the teacher. We would totally disagree with that. The role of the teacher in the classroom is central to children's learning. And school is not just about learning facts. It's about socialisation. It's about becoming a productive member of society. So the aspirations of the Digital Literacy Trust fit very well with our worldview as an organisation. And we think it can make a significant contribution to addressing some of the challenges that we're all going to face as we address SDG 4 and we put our efforts into achieving a quality and inclusive education. So that was my few points. Like I said, it gives us great pleasure to be part of the DLT, and we look forward to some productive and highly successful initiatives going forward.
Right. Mr. Haga is Deputy Director of the Director of Special Needs Education in the Ministry of Education. Fred is a very distinguished, very widely respected presenter, not just on behalf of Kenyan disability, but the disabled community worldwide. When I was with Fred in New York not so long ago, it was amazing to me how many people on the street knew Fred. We were outside the UN, okay, so it's a specialized community, but everybody knew Fred. And when we had our dinner with Aubrey Webson, Ambassador Aubrey Webson, who is president of UNICEF's executive board, they were longtime friends, and the people that they knew in common, not just in the US, but more importantly in countries around Africa, it was very impressive to me. I think that's one of the more impressive things about the disabled community. The level of organization and the quality of the relationships of the people within their leadership is something to behold. Fred?
Thank you, Will. When I eventually decide to run for president, I know my chief campaign is going to be. or I might even consider him as running it. Because the way Will has painted that picture, I'm sure all the votes will come. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very exciting day today, and I'm very happy to be part of this. And we have come as a team from the Ministry of Education, and the message is going to be delivered by our chief guest today. So personally, I'll just share with you a few reflections, maybe to give context, especially to the positioning of learners with the disabilities in this discourse. One of the stories that still fascinates me today is a story that I read in the early 80s. And it was a true story. It's about a Japanese man who, during the Second World War, that's from 39 to 45, went and hid in one of those South Pacific islands. He ran away from the war and hid in an uninhabited island. And while the war was raging behind him, he was very well hidden and he lost contact with the others back in his country. When he was finally discovered, I think it happened to be the 1970s, and a whole generation had passed him while he was hiding. He didn't even know that the war had ended. And this story fascinates me because when I'm contemplating certain issues that we're dealing with today, I see many of our learners, our children with disabilities, very closely related to the kind of situation this Japanese fellow found himself in. That a whole generation had passed him by. And think of what he needed to do in order to catch up with where to where the world had moved since he started hiding. I say this because in the world today, we have lots of technological advancements. In fact, 6 hours is a long time in terms of technological advancements today. And that is the situation many learners find themselves in. The world is actually passing them by because not many people think of their needs even as they design new products. And the previous speaker, my friend Martin Kieti, has talked of the whole idea of universal design, things that are born accessible. Many of our learners are actually being left behind. So when we learn about this initiative, it is one that we are very excited about because it is gaining currency now that more and more organizations, and many of them are represented here today, are making contributions towards ensuring that our learners are not trapped. So I want to join the others who spoke before me in congratulating the Digital Learning Trust for this initiative that I believe will go a long way in ensuring that our learners, that is those with special needs and disabilities, are not left behind in any way, and that they can gainfully access education services so that they are at par with their other peers. Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Fred. And you have my vote, for sure. But then I'm only, I don't know. So you run for president, and I'll see if I can get a spot in the judiciary. Okay. Well, thank you, Fred. And now it's time to introduce our big guest. So Mr. Temba is the head of ICT for education. He comes from the Department of Quality Assurance in the ministry, where he's had, I think it's fair to say, a long career. He's not an old man, but he's not so young either that he doesn't know his way around. I'm honored to introduce my friend, my colleague, Mr. John Temba.
Asante sana Bwana Wins. Mchambo. Good morning. Thank you for the nice introduction. May I appreciate the role that DLT has played in making an impact in provision of quality education. I think I'll be lying even before the birth of DLT. Hii kitabu, together with the publishers, had done quite a lot in the education sector, which I will highlight shortly, and especially in the area of educational technology. And the reason why DLT is coming into existence is because we think they may have the capacity to drive the ICT integration agenda for the special needs education in our country. And indeed, because of that specific reason, the Ministry of Education entered into an MOU with Digital Literacy Trust in July this year, so that we can work together this journey and be able to reach quite a good number of learners, maybe over 5 million learners in our educational institutions who have different types of special needs. So the idea is, in education, we want to ensure every learner, irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their disability, background, geographical location, whatever, is included in learning. Ladies and gentlemen, the ministry or the government of Kenya, through the Ministry of Education, has recognized the role of ensuring the special needs are brought on board. A year ago, there was no directorate called Special Needs Education Directorate. They were hidden under a directorate where I am. But now, it is fully fledged, delivering that mandate, focusing on the nitty-gritty. And we do hope that this kind of partnership, we shall be able to make Kenya to be a showcase internationally, where others come to learn how were we able to bring on board every child who would not have had an opportunity to learn without the intervention. So allow me to thank all the partners involved here, especially the DLT, for this particular opportunity, and I urge every one of us to join us in making ICT integration a reality in teaching and learning of the Kenyan child. Thank you very much, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Temba. Can we give him a clap, please? I think Mr. Temba has launched us. Thank you all for coming. I believe that concludes our program. I will turn it back to my colleague Mercy, because I think she may have something in mind.
Well, I think I would want us to have what we call 5 factorial clubs for our partners, and especially the Ministry of Education, represented by the head of ICT Education, Mr. John Temba. I want us to give 5 factorial clubs, and then we come to the end of this particular program. Are we ready to do that? Prepare, make it warmer, make it warmer. So we start 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3.